and welcome to Diverse and Inclusive Leaders, the podcast show where I interview the most inspirational and thought-provoking leaders of today and unearth their unique stories of diversity and inclusion to help inspire, educate, and motivate others to make the world a better place. Today, I am delighted to be joined by David Doherty. David works for the John Lewis Partnership, and he's incredibly passionate about connecting the right individuals into the right roles when it comes to JLP. He is incredibly passionate about diversity, inclusion, belonging, and really working very closely with talent to ensure that it flourishes. He's very, very proud of working as part of a team of specialist resourcing consultants and resourcing managers where they look to bring the best talent into the business. He's also very proud of having helped the John Lewis Partnership secure first place in the LinkedIn top companies in 2016 and 2017. So welcome to the show, David.
Thanks so much, Leila. You're making me blush. You're one of the only people that's able to do that.
Well, you absolutely deserve it. And the last time we met face to face, which is obviously a very different circumstance to today, given the current state of play. I think it's kind of it's really fun. Got on like a house on fire with you, and I think what really came across was your incredible kind of passion. To drive forward the talent side of the John Lewis Partnership, which of course is very, very important, and even more important now, I guess, given the current coronavirus situation, and also in relation to your passion for diversity, inclusion, and belonging.
Yes, definitely.
But I guess before we kind of get on to some of the current pieces of work you're doing, and obviously to touch on how you're feeling when it comes to COVID-19, I wonder whether you might be able to just share with some of our listeners a little bit about how you came to be where you are today, and a little bit about your personal story, David.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's a story that I'm sure will probably resonate with quite a few of your listeners, in the fact that I was at school wondering what to do with my life, and I had a career planned out in front of me, very much different to HR. I don't think I would have thought of myself as a HR professional back when I was in my early teens. I very much wanted to go into the health service, actually. Went off to university and studied for a degree in human biology and started working for the NHS in immunology. So actually quite a funny time to be thinking back over my previous study there. But I think over my year working within the NHS, my interests definitely changed, and the fundamentals of wanting to help people almost seemed to shift from the physical help part of what I was doing to a much deeper understanding of how can I assist them in every part of their lives, rather than when they are sort of at their most vulnerable, having entered hospital. So I started looking around and was fortunate enough to join Waitrose, and it was from there that my interest in HR really stemmed. And I mean, it's been such a fantastic organisation to me, which is why I've stayed there for, upwards of 10 years now. And they've really helped forge my understanding and have really nurtured me as an individual to be myself at work, and that's definitely something that I've now grown and want to share with everyone else, and the real talent of the future, basically.
Fantastic. When obviously when you embarked on kind of coming out of the career and kind of into the NHS, which is care, but I suppose care in a different way when it comes to talent, did you always envisage yourself working within talent and working with people?
Definitely. And I think it was that people aspect that I think has been the core passion of mine through all of my career ventures. It's been that desire to really want to assist others. So I think recruiting was my natural stepping stone into that, because for me, it is the real pinnacle that can change someone's life when you think about their employment. It's on a day-to-day basis, you are giving people the opportunity to do what they have dreamed of doing for many, many years, and you're opening doors to people that thought they'd never have those doors open for them. So it's that supportive nature in such a broader sense, that you're fulfilling what could be someone's lifelong ambition through your hard work, and that in itself is where my real interests and passions lie.
Absolutely. And I get that when you said that, it's kind of interesting time to be reflecting back on the formative career almost, and actually starting with the NHS. Obviously,
Yeah.
we are pretty much all in lockdown and working from home right now, which I guess within your retail sector is probably an unbelievable, unprecedented time. And, what we're starting in the NHS, and obviously the NHS kind of staff do a brilliant job across the nation. How have you been faring personally, and how do you
Yeah.
think?
I mean, it's been an unprecedented time, and it's one that I think every single person that I've known has risen to absolutely impeccably. And my colleagues around in the whole of the sort of resourcing service centre that we have here for JLP, I think have all done astronomical work, as well as everyone for the partnership. And I think all of us as workers within the retail sector, I think, have really come into our own over the past couple of weeks, as we've all gone above and beyond to recognise the role that we play within society and the support that can be offered. And it almost, for me, it goes down to how we've been supporting our sort of frontline caregivers, who at this time, in my opinion, are the most important people, the most important. And you can see all the hard work that every single retailer is doing to ensure that they get everything that they need at this time. And it's been, although something I don't think any of us wanted to see, it has been an incredible thing to be part of.
Absolutely. And I think it's really now is the time that we'll see, and certainly when we come out of it, we'll see organisations that really have stepped up to the mark, and the ones that have genuinely, I think, shown their heart and their caring, and, whether they have or haven't, put their people first, I guess. And
exactly, yeah, and the hierarchies, I think, of old, even though they seem to have only been sort of 3 or 4 weeks ago, when it was business as usual as we knew it, I think those hierarchies are already starting to crumble slightly, which is wonderful to see. And we within our organisations have seen frontline support work from every level of our organisation. I mean, our new chairman, Sharon White, has been supporting in local branches across all of her local area. So it goes to show how important, I think, that everyone is viewing these roles, and the historic views of that's not my job, I'm not going to do it, have crumbled down, which is miraculous.
Absolutely. It's such an exciting time, obviously, with Sharon
Yeah.
being in post now. And I think that's
Yeah.
really quite wonderful. I mean, I know this is a very, very difficult time, but you also do read some really wonderful and hear some really wonderful stories about humanity and about the fact that everyone is kind of coming together. And as you said, almost hierarchies are crumbling. At the end of the day, this is about, often in worst case scenario, it's about life or death, isn't it? And it is, almost unimportant what our titles are, but what is important is how much humanity we're showing each other, and what we're doing by way of supporting and comforting those individuals, especially ones which are potentially in a vulnerable state, whether it be physically or mentally, of course, because isolation and working in solidarity is kind of not easy for anyone.
No, and I think the days of people looking forward to a day working from home are well and truly gone. I mean, I for one can't wait to get back into the office and the hubbub of conversation, and it makes you really realise the importance of the small things, of even overhearing people's conversations at the desk, and listening to what people were planning to eat overnight, and chatting about what their families were doing. I mean, it's so important. We've tried as much as we can to keep hold of that level of normality within our team, and it was only yesterday that a colleague was giving me some advice as to what I should cook for dinner after I had a small mental block of what to do with some beef. So it's those small things and those variances which are really coming to the forefront of why, for me, it's so important to have mixtures of people in your team, and differences of experiences and differences of what people have gone through in life really do come to the forefront in what it makes for a team to be so special.
I could not agree more. I could not agree more. And I know that you always personally, ever since we first started speaking, have been incredibly passionate about diversity and inclusion and belonging, and not just in the, I don't know, I suppose in the classic ways, that we might think of, be it kind of gender diversity or sort of, Black, Asian, minority, ethnic diversity, but also some of those invisible diversities, be it LGBTQ plus or mental health and such like. And I think, hearing some of the examples of these stories where you're just chit-chatting away and trying to keep as, business as normal as possible with colleagues and socializing, etc. I think that's excellent. Would love to hear a little bit more about some of the examples, I guess. But for those that are listening in, perhaps thinking, well, how can we socialize more? How can we keep things as business and normal in a time like this?
Yeah, so it's all for us. It's all about interacting, and I think video conversations are by far the most important things. And I can see why platforms like Zoom have gone through the roof with their usage. And for us, we have video catch ups at the beginning of every day and at the end of every day with our team, as well as just lunchtime games that we play. So we've had quizzes throughout the week. But it's in that time that we do take a step back from work, and whilst we do continue to talk about sort of work aspects, what we don't do is stop that fun interactive element as well, just joking around as to what we've noticed during the day on a pop up on the news, or what great songs we've been listening to keep us motivated. And some colleagues of mine from wider personnel function here at JLP also set up their own radio channel during the week, which was absolutely incredible. I mean, I cannot recommend it enough. There was some great tune recommendations. It was like listening to This Morning, but with people that I actually worked with. It was incredible. They had call-ins, or phone-ins even, from a variety of different people offering their advice segments. I mean, it's just that humanitarian aspect is so important to keep alive. But I think it's just so important that people do stick with what they normally do within teams. So they do have those interactions where they can do, and don't force themselves to talk about work in those situations, but realize that people mentality of wanting to connect and wanting to just spend time with individuals is so important to maintain in this time. Otherwise, you're right, you will feel so isolated that there'll be massive problems when hopefully this is over soon.
That's some great advice there, though, David. I think, what you're ultimately saying is basically you can't over communicate. Having that check-in at the beginning of the day, having the check-in at the end of the day, making sure it's on video, because when you can see a person's face, you naturally feel much closer to them. You can see the facial expressions. But I love the idea of this radio station. That's really super cool.
People radio station. Yeah, it was great. It was absolutely amazing. So yeah, it was Liz, Anna, and Simon in our team, and on my own and my wider John Lewis people team. They were incredible. Yeah, I think Fern and Phil
cool.
definitely got
me with them. I would love to. I'd love
to.
That's really fun.
They've got to run in for their money. Yeah, I'm coming to channel on ITV soon, I'm sure.
Very good. And I guess, kind of flipping back into, what we were talking about earlier when it comes to, I guess, diversity and inclusion and belonging. And I did hear, a couple of execs saying, well, Leila, I bet that's going to be pushed to the back of the agenda at the moment. And I said, well, to be quite honest with you, when is there more, when could there ever be a more important time than there would be right now for inclusion and really embracing the true fundamental basics of humanity and inclusion, to use, your words there, because it really is about humanness and connectedness and some of the basic fundamentals. And, I wondered, because I know that you have always been very passionate about D&IB, and clearly now with kind of Sharon joining, and even I know Charlie Mayfield obviously is very, very passionate as well about inclusivity. But what are some of the key pieces that you guys are starting to, guys and girls, starting to kind of foster at John Lewis, and which strands of, diversity, inclusion, and belonging are you looking at specifically, which perhaps could be useful to other people tuning in today?
Yeah, definitely. And I think what's really, really good is what you called out earlier, which is thinking about diversity and inclusion from a much broader perspective along the lines of social mobility. So not just necessarily what we called out before and those diversity factors that are really obvious to see, but often there are so many others which can unfortunately go completely missed when it comes to even the most simple aspects of degree qualifications through to down the lines of LGBTQ plus that you mentioned before. So for us, it's about really having a pure holistic view around the broadest spectrum of diversity. So not just necessarily thinking about what has been done before. So for me, what I'd say is that we're really focusing on understanding the various aspects of diversity and inclusion. So broadening your funnel of understanding. So being extremely obvious and extremely open with what it is that we're trying to do in this situation, which is we want we want to represent the communities in which we operate and sell. We want to be very much representative of everyone that we're looking to come and shop in either our department stores or in our supermarkets. But to do that, it follows all the way back through the line of it doesn't just necessarily mean that the people selling those products are diverse, but the people who are buying those products are diverse, the people that are operating in our supply chains are diverse, the people that are looking after our finances are diverse. So it's addressing it at every single point of our organisation, and truly looking to not just bring people in, but ensure that when they are with us, they do feel that they're embedded in a business that does truly support them. And we at JLP definitely have got some really strong values when it comes to being yourself, and not just necessarily changing who you are to fit a mold. We've got amazing networks of partners for a variety of different diversity characteristics that we want much more engagement with, and we want to really utilize those communities to tell us as a business, how do you view the world, and rather than me sit here, I may fall into one or two of those categories, but actually, how can you tell us how you'd want us to work with you as members of those groups?
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting approach, actually, and I love the fact that you actually are kind of going to people and asking them who, almost who, what, why, which groups would you like to be involved in? Because I think all too often, whilst I genuinely think employee resource groups or kind of ERGs for short are fundamental to really moving the dial when it comes to diversity and inclusion, there is also, talk of if they go, I suppose, too far and they aren't integrated, like you're saying, they actually become quite almost, quite siloed in effect. And you mentioned there actually, may well belong to one or more groups. And, I think, making sure that we do really embed that practice almost of intersectionality is critical, because I mean, just, when I suppose I even use myself as an example here, I'm Chinese, but I was adopted by white British parents. I feel very more British and kind of, I dare say almost grown up in westernized way, more so than I would be belonging necessarily to that BAME community, which is for Black, Asian, minority, ethnic sides. And then of course there is the hidden diversities, be it mental health and things like that. So actually very, very important, as you quite rightly say, that we are treating people as individuals and asking them where they feel they would belong, and making sure that we interweave those, also with allies, because actually many people have got many different forms of identity and how they perceive themselves, not just how we feel that they need to be fitted or segmented into certain boxes, so to speak.
Most definitely, and I think that's where the key part that comes from is to not just necessarily target people and go about assuming how we should be treating them to offer them more opportunities. It's much more about listening to what they've got to say and understanding, like you say, which parts of our business and our processes work for them, and what can we actually do to support them in a different way in the future. Because like you say, the diversity of thought that comes from so many other individuals is something that retail in particular are going to need moving forward. The amazing ideas that come from someone that has got a completely different background to someone else could be the key clincher which keeps the retailer afloat in the in the current climate that we're seeing.
Absolutely. And I guess because you're an absolute expert in talent, David, and I think
they should making me blush again.
And I'm not just saying this because I also work in talent, but it is relentless. And actually, I think people sometimes don't realize how difficult it actually is. But from a talent perspective, what have you seen as being the most fundamentally impactful, or the tools almost that have worked the best when it comes to embedding diversity, inclusion and belonging with regards to talent, or bringing in new talent?
I think for me there's a couple. So it's very much having a true desire to want to bring about change within a business. So for me there's a massive issue with the word challenge. I found in businesses, and where you can change someone's mentality to the word challenge from the negative connotations of disruptor, problem creator, but then move them into someone that comes about where you think actually they're being creative, they're being thought provoking. When you change that mentality of challenge, you very much then broaden your understanding of diversity, and you will very much see a much more diverse team starting to grow. But also, like I mentioned before, being really open and honest with what it is that you want to do, not trying to treat diversity as a taboo subject, which it very much has been before. People will often move away from discussing it because they're scared of saying something wrong. But actually, I'm yet to come across someone that has got negative views of looking to create a diverse workforce, and I'd be very concerned if I were ever to come across someone that did it. What you do come across a lot of, though, is people that are scared and concerned to say the wrong thing around someone, or not wanting to talk about it because they don't want to be categorized as racist, homophobic, misogynistic, or one of those categories. So it's about changing that mentality to say, actually, you'll only be able to address this if you talk about it directly. So creating safe spaces for people to be able to talk about things and then continue those open, honest conversations moving forward is definitely something which brings the whole process to life and addresses diversity head on, which sitting right here talking with you, it definitely seems something that's so massively obvious, and I'm sure to a lot of people it is, but actually it's fundamental. It's about changing that taboo mentality of diversity into something that should be celebrated and should be encouraged, and should be praised as the wonderful thing it is.
And do you think that that change starts at the top? Because, of course, there's lots we can do at the bottom. And I know that, you're instrumental in, a number of different pieces with talent across the entire board, from exec through to mid-level. Yeah. And of course, there is a lot to be said about grassroots talent and things like that. But, do you think it starts at the top, or kind of what has been your perception from a internal perspective?
Definitely, yeah, and it definitely starts at the top, and it starts by keeping it at the top, everyone sort of on your board's radar as a constant. It shouldn't just be something that people perceive as another person's problem. It is for everyone to address. And yeah, once we're so lucky to have in Sharon someone that's so supportive of social mobility, and it's her energy that she's re-injected into this entire thing is a wonder for me to see in the partnership, and is something that I'm really excited to see how it plays through in the future. But you're completely right, it starts from it sticking with the board, and then knowing the positives that come from diverse workforces, but actually the massive role that they can play in shifting mentality, not just from a tick box exercise, but also from practicing what they preach, and truly realizing that if you do have someone that can bring about a different view because they've grown up in a different culture to your own, then actually you're setting yourself up in a much more successful way.
Absolutely. It's those different views and different experiences that really bring a holistic sense of kind of true diversity and inclusion to the boardroom table and to the decision-making process, which of course, as we all know, is far better for business. Not only is it a nice thing and a good and the right thing to do, but it is, of course, very good and more profitable for business as a whole.
It makes social sense. It makes business sense.
Exactly. And David, before we run out of time today, because I know that you and I could kind of just chat on forever and a day, and before we know it, it'll be getting dark.
Prepare it. We'll have gins and tonics out next.
Oh, exactly. Well, it is Friday, and I have to say I'm looking forward to a good glass of Prosecco later on today. Yeah. But yeah, just before we do our kind of a usual summary on the podcast, there's been lots of kind of real great nuggets of wisdom there. But it would be great just to kind of head into our usual lightning round. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. 30 seconds to answer each question. But firstly, and I know we have covered this a fair bit, but what is diversity and inclusion personally to you?
for me, it's about everyone feeling comfortable to be their true, authentic self in every aspect of what they do. It's about not being afraid to bring your own personal views to a table or to a situation. And it's about feeling safe and secure in every aspect of your life, not just at work, to be able to do that.
Thank you very much. Great answer. And next, who's been your biggest inspiration in your life, I guess, to date? And it
in
could
my
be business,
life.
it could be personal, it could be either.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. It's difficult to call out some. I mean, there's lots, and I'd have to say it's probably going to be so corny, but it was definitely I'd say my dad, who was sort of instrumental in me growing up, and he was one of the first people that I felt comfortable to talk to about being gay, and he made it. I think, looking back, he made it extremely easy for me to do so. I was so fortunate to have such a loving family, and he talked about when he used to go to gay clubs when he was younger to listen to the disco music and how much he enjoyed it there, which was such a comforting notion to be part of. And then that really enabled me to be truly happy within my home life, which has then enabled me to be truly happy within my work life as well.
Oh, that's such a lovely story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I mean, your dad, he just sounds absolutely amazing. And I think
he's a dream, yeah.
And I have a lot of friends who are kind of LGBTQ plus, and for them, it really is. It's a real struggle, when you haven't yet come out, and particularly if the family are quite old school in thinking, and worrying about what people are going to say. And so I think, actually having that kind of real safe comfort blanket of a family that will love you no matter what, it is absolutely perfect, because frankly you can be yourself at home, and then go to work, obviously.
Take that exactly, and I come from an Irish background, as you may have probably guessed by the surname, so having upwards of 9 aunties and uncles but still being the only person to come out in my entire family's history it was what could have been seen as something that was quite a scary thing to do, but he definitely I can see now, made it comfortable for me as possible. So something like that I think has really helped spur me on to try and pass that on to as many people as I can. I know so many friends that have had horror story experiences.
I know we've taken longer than 30 seconds on that one, but I just need to say something else. I think that's just absolutely fantastic, and I think it does take a brave person to open up fully about anything, like that, whether it be to family or whether it be people in work. And I think, no matter who you are or where you're from, actually, you do, we owe it to ourselves to be role models for the future. And I think it's great that you are kind of flying the flag, not only for LGBTQ plus colleagues, David, but also for other individuals who may well have not yet been through this, or who may be, going through this right now. And actually, like you say, celebrating those differences and making sure that we can be open, so that we aren't, spending half of our time worrying about covering something up is absolutely critical. To be able to flourish, frankly.
Exactly.
And I guess before I end up chatting on longer and longer, I'm going to ask you one final question in the lightning round.
Last word.
But David, if you were going to give your younger self, the young David, advice now, going back however many years, is there anything that you might have said specifically to yourself, or indeed anyone else who's having a bit of a difficult time, who's tuning in?
I'd say follow your own journey, for want of a better thing. And I know there were definitely times in my life where I almost felt pressured to do things that I wouldn't necessarily have wanted to do, act in a way that I didn't necessarily want to do, to try and fit in with other people. And it's such a cliche to say that, but definitely to have that confidence within yourself. And if you haven't yet developed that confidence, is to utilize those close to you to start developing that from. And it coming out, for an example, it doesn't need to be a massive experience that is done all in once, but talking to one close relative, one close friend, and to just explain what you're experiencing and what you're going through, to help try and encourage you before you do take those major steps. And I think that's something that I would probably say, to go back. Do always be you. Do you.
Always be you. Thank you so much. I mean, that's literally perfect way to to kind of end today's show. And so thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you.
And as per usual, I always do my summary, and it's quite long actually today, so I'll try and keep it short. But I think loads of learning points there for me. I mean, definitely be you, whoever is listening in, absolutely be you. And, when it comes to those taboos around diversity and inclusion, around the entire spectrum, when you do go back to work, not only after this difficult period, but also right now, you're never too small to be able to make a big change, and actually sometimes just having a conversation is what that takes. And so trying to kind of reverse almost the taboo subjects or worry about speaking, actually, as David said, don't be scared or concerned or worried that you're going to be vilified for what you're saying, because it's better just to speak out and to talk about these things openly, because ultimately if they're meant with a good and they come from a good place, then actually this should be something that we are talking about. And I am like you are, David, very big believer that talking about things is the first place to actually solving issues. And so if you don't have these already at work, then think about some safe places to be able to talk. As we all know, in practice it's sometimes not as simple as it may sound, but if we can celebrate every single avenue of diversity, and not only the ones which are the physical diversities, but also the ones that are underneath the surface, such as LGBTQ+, such as mental health, such as social mobility, which I know is being celebrated and championed hugely at John Lewis Partnership, which is fantastic. So as per usual, you can check us out and you can check out the show notes. Everything that David said and a summary will be into the show notes at the end of today's show. If you have been affected by anything, please do reach out. David and myself are on LinkedIn, and you can visit us online at www.darglobal.org/podcast or www.leilamckenzie.com/podcast. We're with you every week, but we're here more frequently now due to the coronavirus and obviously wanting to support people at times of difficulty. So if you've got any questions, you want to get in touch, please do feel free to visit us, download, subscribe for free at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app, or indeed YouTube. My name's Leila Mackenzie, and you've been listening to the Diverse and Inclusive Leaders podcast show. Thanks so much, and see you again very soon.
Thank you so much for watching the Diverse and Inclusive Leaders podcast. Please do feel free to hit the like button below, or if you'd like to receive future notifications, do ping the notification bell here at the side. If you're interested in the audio version only, you can find it on the following streaming platforms. Any extra info and descriptions will be in the links below. Look forward to seeing you soon.